And we are on. Good evening, everybody. Johnny Stewart here along with Cueball Carmichael and our producer, Nicholas London. We thank you for joining us for another, we hope, interesting and life-altering and changing and thought-provoking edition of the TruthBusters, where we bring you not their truth, but the truth. This is the second part of our JFK assassination and JFK series. An old amount of, again, Q and I used to be pro wrestlers, so that was a bullshit thing. Promoters would say cards and letters are pouring in, but literally, our producer Nick London has been just besieged with emails and texts and phone calls about our show, what we didn't leave out, what we gave in, the information that we're covering, and we certainly appreciate it. And that is the whole purpose of doing this. Today, introduced, of course, as always, my right-hand guy, the pilot of this crazy airplane, Cueball Carmichael. How you doing today, Q?
Good, Johnny. How are you? How's things in Chi-Town, baby?
It's been the longest week that I've ever had in about 5-6 years. You and I have talked about this. As you get older, folks, and we're old guys, you and I, 53 Qs, 60, 61.
Yeah.
60. Life gets faster. It's unbelievable. I mean, you start Monday off, and by the time you turn around, it's Thursday afternoon. It's unbelievable. But this week, for some reason, we had our show. I went up to our summer home in the UP. And it just felt really a long week. So that's good. I'm very excited about that. And, fall's coming on with the weather and the rain. So that's kind of nice. Fall in Chicago is really nice. And getting really excited about tonight's show. I really am.
Yeah, I'm excited too. It's been a bit of a strange week down here. And, we just, kind of interesting that you turned me on to this movie a couple of years ago, and I finally got to watch it. And let me tell you something. That was the most informational documentary I've ever seen. So much information was thrown at you. You got to watch it a couple of times. You told me, oh, yeah, I watched it 3 times. And I get it after watching it the first time. I went back through it again, and I'm picking up stuff that I didn't know. And they had some bona fide, real investigative whistleblowers on that show that just let go, man, and told the truth. And I thought it was super interesting. You've seen it more than me,
right?
What's your
Well, I just think it's one of the best documentaries ever made. I mean, it's how can I put this? When you bring out people and they're telling you, people that have been there, a whistleblower, and they're telling you, their version of the mutual history, and it doesn't coalesce and jive with the bullshit story, like I always say, bring up Roswell in the Roswell crash. I'm just picking this out of the air. When a guy that's a year or 2 years away from dying, he's got a flannel shirt on, he's educated, lives in Iowa, a simple life, not a showman, retired, CIA or whatever. And he's telling you, I picked up the tarp, I looked in the crate, it was a body not from this earth. Come on. Kurt, I would like to, with your permission, sometime in the future, have a psychologist on and talk about cognitive dissonance. And that is, you just can't tell some people something. You could be the alien telling, somebody, I'm an alien from, Zeta Reticuli. No, you're not. No, you're not. No, you're not. Maybe you're not. And that, you and I have talked about this. I've told you my biggest frustration. That is my biggest frustration, and so, the documentary is great, but, it's pushing through these people's cognitive dissonance. I don't know if you want to follow that up or.
Well, I think, the movie was perfectly correct. We are pre-programmed from the get-go. and we're pre-programmed to go out and get jobs, lead a normal life, crave the white picket fence in the house, 2.5 kids. But that's the way we're programmed. We're programmed that way from the time we're born, through the news and the television shows. We're programmed that way through educational systems are still programmed that way. What they don't want you to do is they don't want you to take those blinders off and start questioning things. Because when you start to question things, I mean, good grief, I went to pacer.org, and you realize there are 45,000 sealed federal warrants going out right now. The first two biggest ones that you probably would have seen was the Nexium Corporation and Harvey Weinstein. That's two. So now they only have 44,998 federal warrants left to serve. And what happens when they serve those warrants, it's going to be a falling of the political regime in Washington. It's been so fake for so many years. They're going to be exposed. A lot of other information that people, not just in America, but every civilized nation on earth, it's all collusion. And what they've been doing is keeping the truth about everything from us. The truth about, and folks, it's going to blow your mind, but I'm talking about the truth about UFOs, about aliens. I'm talking about the truth about governments that do exist, the elitist, cabal. All of this stuff that you may have heard names of may ring a bell. It won't set solid with you because you haven't studied it, because you pre-programmed not to. But when you do, let me tell you something. It changes the way you view the world, and you're going to realize is what the government, the shadow government, the elitists, the cabal have programmed you to and do worldwide, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. But for those of us questioning things above, John, above,
right,
above
top secret, above majestic.
Very good. I need to get there, buddy. Above Majestic. It's on Amazon. You can rent it for like $3.99. Sure, it's free other places. I give you guys this, and John and Nick saw my superlatives when I saw it. It is, as much as I already am, and I can say anti-police, anti-legal system, I'm just anti-government. Federal government has way too much control over the American people. They're taxing us to death. We're working, why is it in 1960 the dad can work at the bank, mom can stay home, raise the family, they can eat, they can buy a house, they can buy a brand new car, they can go on vacation every year for solid weeks and still have money in the bank? Because this shadow government, these people that are in charge, these elitists, these cabal, they have devalued the dollar so bad for their own personal gain that it would blow your mind. Who's really running the government? I can tell you who's not running it. The people that you see in Congress and in the Senate and the president and vice president. They're not running the country. They're certainly not running the world, but there is a group of people running everything. So those are the people that you will see exposed by bona fide, credentialed whistleblowers on this movie Above Majestic. I can't tell you enough how important it is for you to look at that with an open mind, and for once, let's Americans together take the blinders off. And let's expose these people that have lied to us and pre-programmed us our entire lives.
Yeah, if I had some family members laugh at me when Liz Conklin was a investigative and just a reporter in Chicago. She is at the pinnacle of this global pedophilia ring. And I had told some fringe family members of mine that I had a conversation with actually at a lake. And I said, look, you are not going to believe what's going to start coming out in a couple of years. And the couple of years was 2 years ago. And if you would have told people 2 years ago that Bill Clinton and Kevin Spacey are flying to a Caribbean island where there's captured kids and pedophilia and weird sex going on, you'd have laughed in my face. But it's proven, and it's in the back of the news. We have a former president that spent took 26 with a worldwide ring. I mean, I'm just saying the bizarreness of it all. You have the United States Navy telling you UFOs are real, and it's just off to the shelf. We want to watch Orange House, Desperate Housewives, and go to TJ Maxx, and Jon Stewart wanted to go fishing. I don't think if Donald Trump took an alien by hand onto a podium, I don't think this world would skip a beat. Maybe I'm complimenting people. I don't know what's gonna freaking take. I really don't. And I know that we don't want to stop our way of life. I get that, but at some point, your ignorance and your silence, even your silence of like you or me, is criminal. Mark Twain talked about it. Washington talked about it. Jefferson talked about it. Abraham Lincoln. Let me tell you something. I'm not here. Abraham Lincoln, his biggest Italian first biggest, hey, my biggest problem with you. Abraham Lincoln's biggest yoke, slavery, no. The deficit, government spending, no. The Civil War, no. You know what it was? Lazy. This is in 1860s. Lazy citizens of America not getting involved. He talked about an autocratic government. That means you're so lazy, you're so apathetic. Government goes, Stewart don't give a shit. We're going to do whatever we want. Look, they're sitting on the couch watching TV. Nobody cares anymore. And Abraham Lincoln was terrified of that. In 1865, that, folks, clicking on videos, talking to your neighbors, talking to other people, calling, writing your congressman, just getting involved, getting mentally involved, saying to yourself, look, this is crazy. The fact that Bill Clinton is just walking around and not an ankle monitor on and without being investigated, he's raped people's kids, according to the travel logs and Epstein and the girls that were down there. There's a woman that wrote a book, Hillary Clinton raped me. Just stop and say, this is problem, Ms. Q. Talk about this. Where do I go? Who's going to listen to me? I don't know. YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. You got Cueball Carmichael now that could get his to 30 million people. I mean, am I off track? Or I don't know.
No, you're exactly right on track. These 45,000 federal indictments half of those involve big name people that you're going to know who they are. They've been politicians or actors, moguls. They're all in that group together. Folks, I don't care what you think. There's a group, and they moral things, and then they film it, and then guess what? A group is a member for life.
You got it.
One or the other, they all go down, and nobody will ever live to testify. We know that. This group is so big and so powerful, it would blow your mind. That's why these are sealed indictments. Until they arrest them.
Tell us more about this. Take me, even if Nick, our producer, even if we have to push JFK off to the second half, to the next half, will you explain to our listeners and viewers what exactly are you talking about? I know what you're talking about, but talk about the website, these indictments. Why are they not going out yet? How do you know the names? Please fill us in from start from A to B, A to Z.
So I watched this movie that John and I were talking about, and it mentions casually pacer.org.
Okay.
So I go to pacer.org, and it's really just like opensecrets.org. You can find out about any charities that you want. The biggest one in America now, what a scam it is. So pacer.org has a list in there. If you go in and search hard enough, you'll find a sealed federal indictment list. And that sealed federal indictment list is just under 45,000 people right now because they got a few of them.
Wow.
Epstein was one. Harvey Weinstein was one. The Nexium group was two. One was the famous actress. So these other indictments, what they're trying to do is to gather the manpower in a federal task force to take down as many of these people at once across the country. Because if they don't, the phone calls are going to go out to people. People are going to get messages out. So a sealed indictment is handed down by a special grand jury of all citizens, and they make the decision on this. Now, look, it's crucially important. You can't indict without evidence. It's impossible to get a grand jury alone, but a sealed grand jury testimony for 10 hours of especially a felony. Those people on their grand down is not announced. They're not going to go, hey, we're going to put it over on a paper. Let's go arrest these 18 Hollywood moguls because they'll be gone to another country. They'll charter yacht, be gone. Well, let's get these politicians. They'll commit suicide or they'll run to another island. So what they're trying to do is get enough of the task force together to bring down these 40-some thousand fugitives, they're not fugitives. There's a sealed felony warrant against them. The warrant is not announced except in person with the person named on the warrant. So they can't put it in the paper. They can't advertise it. Hence the term federal indictment. Nothing you watch or see in a movie, nothing you've ever read, nothing you've ever heard is going to come down with a magnitude that is so great, it is going to topple the music industry, and just powerful and political.
This question: these things, what is the of what are they for? Money, pedophilia, what are we going to be shocked with here?
We are going to be talking about a global child pornography and child sex enslavement that is going to blow every country off the face of the earth, especially the U.S. and Canada. These people involved in this pedophilia ring are just know who some of them are. And let me tell you something. They pop 10,000 of these people and they lock them up. It's going to be a day when Cueball open up a bottle of champagne. Let me tell you that. Because these people have been getting away with this stuff for 20, 30, 50 years. And the reason why the pedophilia thing is with a 13-year-old, but we ain't never going to rat on each other. These powerful and very rich people, not some of the super rich, but most of the very rich people, entertainers, people have been handed these great careers by a fluke movie or a song or a politician that were lucky enough to get elected by 1% the first time. People that have been there 30 and 40 years, when it all down, it's going to change the complete infrastructure of America in the entertainment, in the political, and in the power regime category. It's very disturbing.
We're going to pick it back up next few minutes. Stay with us, folks. We are talking about explosive. We were not planning on covering this tonight. Explosive information regarding the 40-something thousand sealed felony indictments ready to go out and be distributed. We're going to pick this topic back up for another 10 minutes. Stay with us here. We're going to pay some bills, talk about our sponsors, and we'll be right back at TruthBusters Live, Thursday night edition.
Their board members $15 million by June of this year. And
We are back, TruthBusters Live, Thursday night edition. The conversations kept going as we went off into our commercials. Just really, really disturbing information that our host, Cueball Carmichael, has, dropped on us. I mean, I have also these indictments. You can no longer roll your eyes, folks. With the Jeffrey Epstein being exposed, in the little girls and the boys at his island and all of the celebrities on the plane, you can't roll your eyes anymore. And from what Q is telling us, that when this thing explodes, it's going to shock probably the foundation of this country, no doubt about it. In Q, I was thinking about something as you and I were talking off air. When you talk about, you have video on me, I've got video on you. I'm a congressman. Nick London, our producer, he owns a big corporation. He's got video on all of us and our friends. How many times, Nick, I'm sure you've been there too, in our lives,
I've
where
been everywhere.
Our grandfathers, our fathers, our aunts, our uncles said, what is Congress thinking? Why would you do that? It's why would we spend $25,000 on a toilet seat for a B-52 bomber? Because they're building bases underground. I mean, that's why. Don't roll your eyes. Why did we go from the biggest creditor in the world as a nation to the biggest debtor? The decisions that Congress has made for the past 40, 50, 60 years is you like my mom was Italian but spoke Yiddish. my mom would say they're Meshuggah. They're not Meshuggah. They're all blackmailed. And the Jeffrey Epstein saga, which is not ended, is proving that. I mean, am I right or am I wrong?
No, you're right. And look, let's go back 19 years. Everybody remembers 9/11. That's tomorrow. Does anybody remember what happened on 9/10?
Oh, let me think. Donald Rumsfeld told America that the Pentagon can't account for $2.7 trillion in spending. Yeah.
However,
how coincidental.
When it was audited 6 months later, it was $6.3 trillion.
No,
the Pentagon said that for some reason, not they lost it, not they paid somebody off, not they sold it, they cannot account for that money. Look, it's one thing if you got $5 in your pocket, you pull out your wallet, the $5 falls on the floor, and you're like, oh crap, I lost $5.
Right.
That's exactly the story that Rumsfeld, and then later, when it was finally accounted for, and it turned into 6.3. It's mind-boggling. $6.3 trillion. The answer by the person in charge of that account, she said, right now, I cannot account for the money. And when she was pressured by Congress to come up with an answer, she said, the answer can't change. I can't account for it. Meanwhile, what America doesn't realize, if you think in 1969 we went to the moon and suddenly we gave up, we decided to fly space shuttles, just out of the orbit and make satellites. Right. Let me tell you something. The space program's been going on hard since the 1960s. You don't think that 20, it's ridiculous. Is it 20 stories or 20-mile high obelisk on the face of the moon that they can't account for? They just don't show that.
Right.
They can't account for when WikiLeaks leaked it, and they had a list of officers and non-terrestrial officers. That is a true story. WikiLeaks.
Oh, no, that didn't happen, Q. Yeah. No, a guy didn't hack into NASA and see a list of non-terrestrial. That didn't happen. I'm going to go back and watch Desperate Housewives.
Yeah. Ironically, this man did not do any jail time. And do you know why he didn't do any jail time? Because he agreed to silence on certain subjects.
Yeah.
However, what he has talked about that was made an agreement, shut up, no lockup, is they didn't say he couldn't talk about what was going on in outer space. And he talked about it. And he talked about the trillions of dollars missing. In the military, these officers, hundreds of soldiers, listed as non-terrestrial officers. Where are the officers stationed? Because I think I'm going to drive there. Right. That's how ridiculous that sounds when you repeat it.
Right.
Non-terrestrial officers, hundreds of them. And that can only mean one thing. Folks.
They're on a planet somewhere.
The elitists, the cabal, whatever you want to call them, the super rich, they're already making their plan Earth for them and their family. They're already making their escape plan. Because the way the Earth has been treated, you've noticed the global climate change. You've noticed storms are bigger and harder, and more people are killed by it. The fires in California. We are building to a cataclysmic event on the Earth, either with something that hits the Earth, or us just destroying the Earth to the point nobody can live on it anymore. Right. Well, don't worry about the super rich, MAGA rich, and the cabal, because if you want to call it the one world government, whatever you want to call it, those people, the New World Order, whatever you want to call it, those people are already making plans, and they
figured it out already. Oh yeah, they're gone.
Yeah,
and it's funny too. You talk about, oh come on, Cueball and Johnny are talking about president going. It's funny, when you die, when you're dying, when you have a or when you're leaving your company, it's funny how to really stop the bullshit and start telling the truth. So the outgoing president, CEO of Skunk Works, folks, Skunk Works is, if we had a company that was designing UFOs and company, that's documented. The outgoing CEO said, quote, what are you talking about? We can send ET home and bring him back again. Our technology would blow you can't even imagine the real technology that we have. We can send ET home and bring him back again. That was the CEO, outgoing CEO, retiring from Skunk Works, which is our boogeyman, corporation that builds all kinds of bizarre, weird, and esoteric things. And so don't roll your eyes at me, listener, skeptic out there, because the guy that runs the company is telling you that. You just don't hear that because George Stephanopoulos is such a pipsqueak, and that in the news organizations, they won't put that on TV. You won't hear that because that scares you, and they want you to go to Target and spend all your money and max out your credit cards. And cue this, the woman that, the 6 point, what was it? How much were they now? 6.2 trillion?
$6.3 trillion.
$6.3 trillion unaccounted for. I write checks. I know what I spent. I could see the checks that I wrote. However, do you know that the part of the Pentagon that was destroyed in 9/11? So, and I'm going to do a documentary on this on YouTube. So get ready. I'm going to put this. We're going to put it into this Q and I are going to put it into this do it kind of, I can't, analogous type of comparison. But a day before 9/11, we're missing $2.7 trillion. The day of 9/11, do you know where the plane hit in the Pentagon? The accounting office of the Pentagon that happened to fucking magically be destroyed by the airliner that hit the Pentagon. The accounting office. Now, so the day before, I spent all of Cueball's money. The next day, I blew up Cueball's basement in his office where he can't find any of my documents and my credit card receipts.
And John, it's funny. There's always a memorial at 9/11 in New York. Planes went down. There's always a memorial for Flight 93 that went down in Pennsylvania, but there's never a memorial for the missile that hit the Pentagon.
Folks, no, Nick, sir. Here, I told you, go on Fox News, the bullshit of the news, how it's either you say what they want or you don't get on. I've been in politics. I've told the weirdos in the glassy-eyed stares of politicians that just don't even understand basic life, couldn't run a hot dog stand in Boston. I've told you about all of my Hollywood meetings that I've had with Hollywood producers, production companies, high-level agents. It was spookorama. I'm Jon Stewart from the Midwest. How you all doing? And they're like automatons from the from the Stepford Housewives. I've been there. I know I'm a fat, chubby guy from the Midwest. I've been there. I've seen it. I'm telling you firsthand. And I was a witness to Flight 191 that went down in the spring of 1979. I was on the overpass of the Kennedy Expressway. This it was an L-1011. Ladies and gentlemen, this thing crashed on takeoff. Cue the smoke pillar. And pillar. Yes, that was a great word.
Pillar. Yes.
The smoke pillar of this plane was as wide as 6-lane highway. It lasted for 5 hours. It was so thick and voluminous that I could not believe this. And when you see the missile or what hit the Pentagon is a little puff of smoke, and for minutes, there's nothing. There's
no black smoke.
A puff of smoke. Then the Pentagon, which is on fire now, then you see the smoke. This freaking airliner would have created, and we're not getting into 9/11 yet. We're just trying to break your cognitive dissonance. This airliner, this smoke should have been like the Twin Towers. The smoke should have been billowing out of this thing for months, for hours. And I've seen a crash. Okay, I was a half a mile from one of the worst air disasters ever in the country. I was there. What I saw that day and what I saw at the Pentagon, please. So, you can roll your eyes at Q and I all you want, but, a lot of this we've got firsthand information, and it's just ridiculous. And we're trying to tell you this, I guess, Q, back me up. Because you're going to start hearing stuff that is going to blow your mind, like the Navy telling you there's a freaking UFOs out there. So get prepared. If this show is about information, this show is trying to educate you and illuminate you. Q, am I nuts or am I?
No, here's the problem is, look, you and I decided a long time ago to take the blinders off and start looking around. And we started to do information back 6-7 years ago on shows and things, but we also got into this political regime. And when Jon's talking, just to back him up, he's had several meetings with a 3-time Emmy-winning producer for us. That's a true story. And he's also had a meeting with, if you know who Roddy Piper was, he met with Roddy Piper's agent personally when he was in California. So these Hollywood meetings that Jon is talking about, they're not pretend. He had a show years ago, Tire Kickers. So, Jon's had TV shows. He's worked with me on TV shows. We've shot sizzle reels. We've been in contact with directors. Jon's been personally visited them in California at a time when I couldn't. So these are everything we're telling you. It happened. It's true. You got to listen. You got to take America. You got to take the blinders off. You're not. I got invited to like 10 different Patriot groups on Facebook. There can't be more than 1,000 each one. A coherent conversation done with respect and dignity to somebody's opposite opinion.
Interesting.
I sit there and I look at that and I'm like, why would I want to be a part of this garbage? Look, right. If you're a patriot, you don't have to pick up a gun and shoot somebody. Guess what a patriot does? They dig. They go down a rabbit hole. They get information. They question that information. And when they don't get that information that corresponds with previous publicly released information, they get even further into it. That's what we do. Jon and I have been doing that for years. And so, we decided to finally do a show on it because we were doing it anyway. So why not do a show? And that's why TruthBusters was born, because Jon and I have learned for years together to go down the rabbit holes on these things like conspiracy. And look, folks, it's real simple. You do the Ben Franklin close. You make a T on a piece of paper. You put all the positive and all the negative over here.
Right.
You go down the list all the positive stuff that you've seen. And for instance, JFK, look at all the stuff that makes it look like it was Lee Harvey Oswald alone. And then put down the other side all the stuff that makes it look like Lee Harvey Oswald didn't work alone. Look, a Gallup poll in 1993, 78% of Americans said what? Lee Harvey Oswald didn't act alone. First off, there was too many shots. There were 6 of them.
Dude, so wait, Q, wait a minute. That was one of the best segues into this program ever. Good job. Keep going. Great segue into JFK. I'm complimenting you.
We'll cover it for 20 minutes. Thank you. So JFK, there are 6 total shots accounted for and fired as a minimum. Now, look, I've hunted my whole life. Jon has hunted his whole life. Yep. We know by being in the woods, when somebody fires a rifle, we can tell the direction it came in, east, north, southwest, southeast, northeast. We know the direction it came in. We know approximately where that shot was fired from. And all the experts over the years have said that there was at least 2, if not 3 separate guns firing during the shoot. Statistics don't lie. Statistics don't lie. People lie. There's an old saying, right? Liars don't figure, figures don't lie. And that's the gospel. So you got to look at this stuff, guys, and you got to take this information and you got to be willing to take out a piece of paper. I know it's tough because you can't do it on notes on your phone. Take a piece of paper, draw a T, and go over to the left side and put Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. Go to the right side and put he didn't act alone. And you put down all the information to prove he acted alone. Eyewitness statements, recanting testimony, everything. And then you get on the side that said he did not act alone. In the great words of John F. Kennedy, the list will be this long. It'll be huge.
Right. Yeah.
It's
funny.
Current president, it's going to be huge.
Tonight, we are going to cover, and it's not a real long litany of Russia and Cuba. Did they do it? What are the stories? If they, I can briefly say that there are many, and to name their names is, what does it matter? You don't know them. And to know that I've seen the programs, I've read the books, I've seen the actual documents online, that there were many KGB agents that said Khrushchev was very distraught that he was killed. And that to their belief that there was no program, no plan to take out John F. Kennedy. Khrushchev knew that if he did that, something like that, and it got back that Russia did it, it would be World War III. And we knew that although Khrushchev was a little crazy, backing down from the Cuban Missile Crisis, he did not want World War III either. So right. We don't have to talk about it any much longer. The fact that folks from our research, from many other really intelligent people, Russia was not involved in this, in the assassination of JFK, in so much that Lee Harvey Oswald, I'm going to go back to Carol Stewart, they all thought Lee Harvey Oswald was Meshuggah too. You know, like, why would he come over here? He wants to be a Russian citizen. And, you know, they gave him a job in a radio factory. What's Lee Harvey Oswald's wife, Marina? You know, he married her. The KGB agents thought nothing of Lee Harvey, that he was, you know, he was a little bit of a kook. And things are showing up that he was off center and off balance. So Russia, you know, we could put the noise, you know, the sound effect, the ding, wasn't involved. Cuba, let's talk about Cuba. I investigated this week, Q. A little thing, boy, this is so much. JM Wave. This was the program based out of Miami that also trained Cuban exiles in the Louisiana swamps for an invasion of Cuba. Castro took over. He threw all the mobsters out, closed the casinos, nationalized everything, converted to communism, and that pissed off a lot of people. And the United States didn't like a communist island 90 miles off the shores of the United States. So the CIA started JM Wave. This is documented, Freedom of Information Act. And many people have claimed that Lee Harvey Oswald was senior, that David Ferry, who was a pilot, the guy with the crazy eyebrows in the JFK movie, helped train Cuban exiles here. And what we are finding is that they went to Operation Mongoose was to kill Fidel. That didn't work. They were going to start a food crisis so people would overthrow Fidel. That didn't work. The guy is truly the Teflon Don. So we were going to do the Bay of Pigs invasion. We were going to send trained Cuban exiles into the island of Cuba. We were going to back them up with air support with unmarked planes. John F. Kennedy started to get cold feet. He only sent 2 unmarked planes. They were shot down immediately. Somebody knew that they were coming. The Cubans were waiting for the exiles on the shore. It was a military counter insurgency fiasco from start to finish. And JFK publicly took the blame, but was being blamed by a lot of mafia, military insiders, and these Cuban exiles. In this operation, there was a team called there was a team that was specifically trained to assassinate Fidel. And folks, as we will show next week when we do the day of presentation, of the JFK assassination. Please don't miss it. It's a theatrical production. It's information. You're going to love it. But this was they remember, we always talk about the car dealership. You know, we give the analogy. The president of the car dealership gets the porter to, you know, beat up or kill the used car manager. The president of the car dealership, I didn't say anything. I didn't do anything. This assassination team, Robert F. Kennedy, the first thing he said to Lyndon, why did your guys do this? Robert F. Kennedy also said, I know these guys that we had turned it around on my brother. And there are many people from ex-mafioso to ex-Army and CIA intelligence that said this was the initial strike team. And this anger, this grudge, this, this debacle where their countrymen were killed, JFK was blamed for all of this. And so I'm not going to get ahead of myself here because we got the day of coming next week. Don't miss it. But here is the point: is that these CIA contract killers were in place, and the fact that I'm missing. I'm sorry, I got brain fog. But they were in place when the powers that be decided to move this agenda of getting rid of JFK along. They had this power structure. They had these assassins at the go. And there is a great documentary where they found a man who's living in Florida who was part of this queue. This is really, we didn't talk about this. He's living in Florida. He was bona fide intelligence operative for the Castro regime. And he specifically remembers the day of the assassination that the Cuban radio operators that were on the northern end of the island all of a sudden turned their deep cover radio listening devices, to gather intelligence, turned it towards Virginia. He remembers hearing Virginia, and also they towards. So you had two, radar antennas at Washington D.C. and at Texas, and he thought, why? What intelligence did we get that what's going on in Texas? Now, does this mean that Fidel Castro tried to kill JFK? I don't know, but without a doubt, Fidel's regime knew about it when they turned those radio receivers towards towards Dallas, knowing that something was going to happen that day. Q?
Ordered by Castro to do so, by the way, which, if you're not familiar with Cuba pre-70s, it was very strict. Music in Cuba in the 60s, you went to jail. Yeah. And they would keep you in jail as long as they wanted to. If you had a Beatles album, you go to jail. Right. So, my thoughts on that is he had a dog in the fight. I think they worked together. I think that he had a dog in the fight. I think, obviously, other people had a dog in the fight. Number two probably being Lyndon Johnson. I mean, it was either be president or be in jail.
I don't think it would be crazy for Fidel to get into the wind, to hear in the wind, the intelligence wind, that there is a plot forming against JFK. Do you agree with that, or am I crazy?
100%. See, what America doesn't really know about is there are people I pay to talk and communicate and establish a relationship and a friendship, and they disseminate certain information to each other. And it's very important information. That's why it's called the intelligence community. But I can tell you, somebody good in our intelligence community has a contact, and whatever bitter enemy you can think of that would be ours has a contact over there whose job is to do the same thing with somebody here. And they do share information. And this has been going on for probably 100 years. It's always been like that. Since you've been able to transfer information since the development of the Central Intelligence Agency, intelligence work is huge. And yet, there are people paid just to have conversation and build a friendship with a person or two. That's their whole 25-year career in the federal government. We want you to get close to somebody over there, go over there and party, take a trip, whatever, fly to Mexico, fly to Cuba, come back, whatever you want to do, make friends. I mean, that's what happens. That's how it's done. Yeah. You guys might think, well, it sounds archaic and stupid. No. But look, you all communicate with text and instant messenger, right? When was the last time you picked up the phone and have a conversation with a close friend for an hour?
What about going to see Cueball in Russia back in '61? Call up the travel agent or the CAA travel office, get a plane ticket, go on the plane, call you on the phone that you're coming. Let's meet in Gorky Park. I mean, this way you hit it right on the head. There was no text messaging or fax or computers. I mean, you had to go face to face or phone.
Yeah, it was the only way to communicate. Yeah, and so there's a lot of that. Now, I just want to go back real quick before we get up the air. We were talking about you and I being hunters and knowing where the sounds come from, the gunshots. I just want to read a little piece.
Go ahead.
That in 1982, a panel of 12 scientists appointed by the National Academy of Science, including Nobel laureates Norman Ramsey and Luis Alvarez, unanimously concluded that the acoustic evidence in the JFK shooting was seriously flawed at best. They concluded the recording was made after the president had already been shot, and the recording did not indicate any additional gunshots. The conclusions were later published in the Journal of Science, and the findings were there was at least 2 shooters, at least 2. Now this is configured with a 96% accuracy with a plus or minus of only 1%. So experts have enough evidence that if there's 100 of them sitting there, 95 of them go, you know what, this is messed up. And the other 5 are getting paid off to say the other thing. Because that happens. Yeah. Right. You want to live with your blinders on, you don't think that happens. That happens.
Again, we'll get it to it next week, but folks, like 45 people ran up the grassy knoll. I mean, they didn't run up there because Bo the Clown was signing autographs. They ran up there because they heard a freaking gunshot come from the grassy knoll.
It's funny.
Mr. Hartman, the deaf mute verified those people's testimony. I saw smoke. I thought it was somebody lighting a cigarette. It distracted me. I looked over. I saw a man take the rifle. He took it apart. He put on his jacket in reverse. He put on his hat and he strolled away. People, they're all nuts. The police officers ran up to the grassy knoll, backing up what Cueball just read to you about another shooter.
Well, what's ironic is when the Warren Commission was doing its investigation, 7 people came forward to the Warren Commission. Now, this is just the ones, not the we're standing to the left to the right of the grassy knoll. 7 people just don't come out of the woodwork. Remember, back before Facebook, before the internet, before text messages, 7 people randomly who don't know each other don't come out of the woodwork and say, hey, here's what I saw. And all 7 have an identical description of what they saw, who they saw walking away, what they saw doing. That they didn't need them as witnesses.
Yeah.
So 7.
Because that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you listen to those left out when he tells his producer, but just go out of the warrant committee. Witnesses, your mind, but more importantly, they should infuriate you. Q, before we run out of time here, just so you don't think that Cueball and I in this program are slanted one way or the other, I would like to share with you some misnomers of the JFK assassination that will let you at least believe that we are coming from a level playing field and we are looking at both sides. The backyard photo that Oliver Stone claimed in the video that was faked, sorry, folks. Marina is Oswald's wife, and one other person were there that day. Oswald's wife said, yeah, I took the picture. So, there's a conspiracy that is not true. Brain disappeared. And the Smithsonian lost his brain. There are testimonies of 2 naval orderlies who performed the first JFK autopsy. Quote, the casket he came in was metal. It was slightly pink. We took the president's body out of the casket, the dissection table, and what was left of his brain fell to the floor. Was there a brain to hand to somebody? There was nothing left in his head. Okay, so the brain disappearing, which I believed for many years until I saw that testimony on a documentary of the orderly that was in there when JFK's body was up. So, there was no brain to disappear. So that's off the conspiracy list. JFK didn't want to be in Vietnam. Not true. Sorry. He did think it was important to stop or buttress communism in faraway places. He was the president that sent against Eisenhower's recommendations. John F. Kennedy sent advisors to Vietnam, but he wanted them to be advisors, and that's it. And then when he realized, he told McNamara, Lyndon Johnson, every time McNamara goes over there, he comes back and just scares the shit out of the president. That's my Lyndon Johnson impersonation. We realized McNamara told Lyndon Johnson, we're never going to win in Vietnam. It's a winless situation. JFK originally did want to be in Vietnam. And Lyndon wasn't so gung-ho to continue initially either. So that's a little Oliver Stone. Lyndon was scared shitless about a war over there getting completely out of control, and it did. He also helped us, true. But and I give a damn war. That is a little. So, I thought this was important. Q, I would like your minute. When Oswald was told that Officer J.D. Tip, he gave a smirk. Whether he did it or not, or whether he knew about it, that did come. Saying the lone assassin was an asshole, a son of a bitch, and had something to do with the plot regarding the JFK. Who Oswald that day had a long package of brown paper, said it was curtain rods. One of the shooters. And when I never heard that story in 40 years ago, how he smiled. He gave a glint of smile when he heard it died. That's telling me that he was pretty happy, and it was one of the conspirators. We got a minute left. Want to take us out of here? Go ahead.
One of the things that I want to say about that is, look, here's the story with Oswald. He nothing else. He was a pack take a fall, but it's interesting. After Jack Ruby shot him, he went in for an autopsy. And like and subscribe, guys. Again, go over to YouTube. It's Triple T Radio space live, and click on and tell us you like tonight's show. You leave endless comments over there. You can leave them on Facebook. We love to hear from you guys. And listen, I just want to say it's a pleasure to be able to bring and shed a little light with my brother John on society. And I'm going to beg you guys to do something different. I'm going to beg you to watch Above Majestic, and then I'm going to ask you to take your blinders off. Yes. Take your blinders off and look around. You're living a life that was already pre-programmed before you were ever born here. You got to. It's like Roddy Piper's movie, They Live. Look, you can wear any pair of glasses, and if you look hard enough, you can see right through it and see who the real bad people are. So, guys, listen, I want to thank you again for joining in TruthBusters on the Triple T Network. Can't.
Don't miss
Everybody,
it.
please leave. Pen again.